And let's bring in the man in the middle, the new White House Communications Director, Anthony Scaramucci. I haven't had a chance on television yet to congratulate you on the new position, Anthony.
Thanks, Chris.
Good luck.
To see you.
And I hope
Thank
that
you.
you serve the people of this country well.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. Okay, so go ahead. I heard the introduction, so I'm ready for you. Go ahead.
Well, that's your job, is to be ready. Let's talk about what matters. Health care. The president says inaction is not an option. He is banging on members of his own party, most recently Senator Murkowski from Alaska this morning, saying she did her own constituents a disservice. It raises the question, how did she do her constituents a disservice? The bill that is out there right now, these kind of bald replacements, repeal statutes without understanding what the replacement is, the president called that notion mean when it came out of the House. Why is he now seeing the resistance by a senator as a failure?
Okay, so let's step back for a second. The reason the president's saying that is if you look at the macro features of what's going on, the Republican Party for 7.5 years has called for the repeal and replacement of Obamacare. Moreover, what we know from free market principles is that when you make something a little bit freer and you decentralize it, you get two positive benefits to the consumer or the patient. You get lower cost of delivery and you get better service. That happened in the airline industry, Chris. It happened in telecommunications when it was deregulated and made freer. And what the president is trying to do is make the healthcare system freer. However, because it's Washington and there's a lot of webs here in Washington that have to be broken up, like the cobwebs in your attic, we have to get out there and start with incrementalism. All good entrepreneurs have to start somewhere with a dedicated plan to finish in a great place. And so while things may not be perfect right now, whether it's repeal and replace or repeal and delay, you are moving the process towards a freer system where you will get the technological S-curves that you've experienced in Silicon Valley, you've experienced in other areas of our economy. You have not been able to do that here because of the centralized nature of the way the hospitals and the doctors are interacting with the insurance companies. And so the president and Secretary Price and other members of the administration, frankly, all the members of the administration understand that. And what he's saying, like a good football coach, let's get off of the same offensive game plan. Don't focus on the micro nature of this today, if you're a senator, but focus on the macro long-term effects that this bill is going to have on the society and the positive effects it's going to have on the economy. We don't want to see healthcare expenses continue to go from maybe it's 18 or 19% now, Chris, into the mid-20s. That would be disastrous for the economy. We've studied other countries where you can get it down. And we have a plan to get it down. And one of the bad news things about this, it's not going to happen overnight. You can't put something in place and expect it to be the panacea, Chris, immediately. But what you can do is, working with the great leadership of the president, is move the process along to get it in a place where the American people will like in the next 3, 5, and 10 years.
There just seems to be a disconnect between the urgency that the president has in any particular plan. You analogize him to a football coach. I would suggest where are the X's and O's? The president doesn't have his own plan or what he seems to want. We do know that costs were a problem. We do know that the rate of increase of those costs is less since the ACA. So we get what the problems are. We get that there is a need for fixes. But we don't get what the plan is to fix them. And now we have the president saying, act, 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 but with no direction on what to do.
So I want to respectfully disagree with you, okay? A good decentralized management and leadership structure, he would turn to the members of the House and the Senate who had 7.5 years to come up with a plan, and he would say, okay, what's your plan? And then he would look at the plan and say, okay, I now understand why this is so complicated and why we're not going to get everything done overnight. Just the same way you can't build a building overnight, but let's start the process, Chris. Let's get the ball rolling towards a patient-centered, freer, decentralized system.
But he
so
called
that's the
their
plan.
ideas
Those are the X's and O's right there.
He called the plan mean. He said it lacked heart and that you needed to take care of people. And he had said in his pre-presidential life that he believed that everybody needed to be covered by health care.
And we're gonna get there, Chris. And so we're basically saying this is an evolutionary step toward a greater system, a more efficient system, a more cost-effective system.
But how do you know that, Anthony, based on what's out there?
I'm going to tell you
That's
how
not
I
what
know
the
that,
CBO
Chris.
score says.
Let's go back to 1984 when the lobbyists in this community here in Washington were trying to block the breakup of AT&T. And it was eventually broken up into 7 baby bells. It's 32 years later. We've taken data transmission effectively down to zero, and we've led to the rise of the internet. You wouldn't have Amazon, Facebook, Google, all of these wonderful S-curving technologies that have completely benefited not only the United States but the world without breaking up that system.
But
so
Anthony, there's no
that.
correlation or
Chris,
causation
there's
between what
100% no,
happened with
that's wrong.
With
There is
telecom
a
and what's going
correlation.
on with healthcare. And even
no, there
if,
is, sir.
even if
No, you see,
there
now
were an analogy,
I got to push back. I got to push back very hard on that.
Go
There's
ahead.
an absolute correlation because you have to look at it as a macroeconomist. I'm a trained economist,
Right.
and I'm here to tell you that when you break things up and decentralize them, they always do better.
But
And so-
teams
and
of
so
economists-
we got to start that incremental step, Chris.
Right, I
So
understand.
there
but-
is a correlation.
But here's the thing. The step is only as good as the details of that step. And what is before the Senate right now has been scored and found grossly lacking in terms of securing the promise of the president, which wasn't as simple to repeal and replace,
let's go-
but to
let's
make it
go-
better. How is
We're
this
gonna-
better?
Chris, we're gonna win so much, Chris. You're actually gonna get tired of winning. So let's just go over what we did yesterday. Okay, we won yesterday. Okay, good entrepreneurial, political entrepreneurship. We won yesterday. Now, incrementally, we're going to win again over the next 2 weeks once we figure out exactly what's going to be put before the major vote in the Senate.
But how was it a
Once that-
win? How was
let
it
me
a win
finish.
to force
How was
senators
that
to
win?
vote
We-
on a procedure to move forward on a plan they don't understand? How is that a win?
Well, let me put it this way. Suppose they didn't vote for it. Then that would obviously been a loss. You guys would be on the TV this morning saying, "Oh, they couldn't vote for it, or they couldn't move it forward."
Well, that's
so of course
optics.
It's a win.
That's optics. Leadership
It's
would
not
suggest
optics,
that maybe you go to them and say, "Go work a deal with the
you know what I love
Democrats.
about you, 'cause
Go
you
take
and
it to
I actually
committee the
grew
way
up-
you're
you
supposed
and
to."
I actually grew up in a very similar neighborhood, so we want things done subito. You know, the Italian expression
means
for quickly.
fast.
You and I both want that done subito, but this
No,
is
I want it
Washington.
done
Nothing
right.
gets done
I want it
subito
done
here.
right. That's what the American people want.
Yeah, but
is
you know-
for this
you
to
know-
be
you
done
know
in a
what?
way that makes it better, not just
You know
makes
what?
it a political win.
The way the founders put the system together, you have a lot of disruptive activity inside the system. You just
But
gotta
this
go to
is
team of-
disruptive activity. This is a
Chris,
perversion of
Chris,
the
you
normal
just gotta
process
go to
for
team of
political
rivals and
expedience.
think about the way Lincoln ended the war and realize how much heat and dissension there was there to do the right thing. Here's what I
But
love
why
about the
would you
president.
want? Why would you want this to be like the
The president
end of the
wants to
Civil
do the
War?
right thing, Chris. He's got to operate inside this Byzantine system to do the right thing. And so we're practicing political entrepreneurialism of incrementalism. Let's get this done right now. We'll get it passed through the Senate. And then we'll do what all good entrepreneurs do. We'll make refinements to the process
But Anthony,
and the policy
how
to make it
can-
better for the American people.
Here's the question. The president seemed to suggest that he was going to come in from the outside and do better for people. How is what's happening right now a reflection of that? It was an end run around the procedure. You now have them voting on things that his own party isn't sure about. And the only thing that seems clear is that the Republicans want to make good on their promise to destroy Obamacare. And they'll see that as a political win with their base. But how is that better for people?
So, you know, I mean, and again, I mean this with all due respect, because you're obviously wicked smart. but
we
you're
always know
talking
that
like
that
an
phrase does
establishment-
not have
you're
it followed with
talking-
anything respectful.
You're talking like an establishmentarian journalist that's wedded to the establishmentarian bureaucratic sclerosis in this city known as Washington,
And that
D.C.
sounds like a hollow criticism.
No. That's exactly what you're doing. And so what the president's doing
By
he's
suggesting that you
acting
need to
as
do
a
it the right way and make
disruptive-
it better for people, that
I'm
if
trying to
that's being an
explain
establishmentarianism, I think it's the right
you're
place to
being
be.
an establishmentarian because you're talking about, once again, the sclerosis and the centralization and the bureaucracy, all of the things that the people of the United States do not like about Washington, D.C., and all of the reasons why the president was elected to come down here and try to disrupt it. Now, my advice to these people here is give them the air cover, give them the opportunity, and go back. If you want to blame it on him or blame it on us here at the White House, go ahead, but do the right thing for the American people en masse, and the society and the system will get better. If you stay in the status quo, in the lockstep of this establishmentarian status quo, it will lead to a disaster, Chris. You know that, and I know that. You don't have to be that good at arithmetic to understand that in 2019, 2020, Obamacare is imploding. You don't have to be a math genius to see that. So why
Many
wait for
experts
the crisis,
in the field of
Chris,
healthcare
why
disagree
wait for
with
the
that
crisis
assessment
like Washington
and say the
does every
greatest threat to
time move?
Obamacare
Why not move now,
is federal
Chris?
subsidies being pulled by the president. All I'm saying is
I couldn't hear you because I was trying to talk over you. Go ahead, I'll let you talk. Go ahead.
I'm saying that experts disagree with the notion that Obamacare is failing. They see the most imminent threat to it is holding these federal subsidies, as the president has done, over the head of insurers, creating uncertainty. But we all know that the ACA needs fixes. I'm just saying the president promised
that's a politically
better.
contrived opinion. That's like the tobacco company saying that smoking's good
Well,
for you.
but that's like having economists give us an assessment of AT&T. These are the experts on that subject.
Look at the math, Chris. Super healthy young people would rather pay the tax penalty than enter the system. So now you're going to
Of course they would. They'd
system
rather
upside
pay
down.
the least. That could tell you that the tax penalty may not be
That's
high
a
enough,
free market.
that the mandate
Chris,
doesn't work well
Chris,
enough.
that's a free market principle. Did you see that? They'd rather pay the least. So why not disrupt and decentralize the system, make it more price competitive, increase competition for the insurance companies, reevaluate the way we're entering the primary care market, the way Secretary Price wants to do it, and trust the process of the free market, like in telecom, like in airlines. You will get a better product, better quality service at a lower price. That's what America has been
Well,
about
we have
for
the CBO to
240+
score,
years.
and I'm just saying that what came out of the House that they're working off of right now was called mean by this president, and with good reason, based on the CBO. Well, the facts matter.
We're going back
Facts
to the
matter.
mean word, which is fine. That shows
what
the
he said.
president's compassion, and it shows you the president's heart, where
and
he
his
wants
ability
to take care
read,
of everybody.
because the CBO score said you would have tens of millions of more people
So
not
we're gonna-
covered. That's all I'm saying.
So my message to you and the American people: be patient. Have confidence that you've got people here that really understand what they're doing over time. If you're expecting an instant panacea or an instant cure, it's not going to be provided by anybody here in Washington. But if you listen to the president, who's a great builder and has a great vision, and you have a 3, 5, and 10-year period of time to look out at, by the end of the decade, we can actually make this thing dramatically better. But we got to start now, and we got to start right here. And I tell my fellow Republicans, get on side. Don't fight with the president here. We need your help. It's better for the American people long term. It's better for your constituents long term. Take the incremental political heat today for a better society in the future. That's my message to my fellow Republicans.
And they're saying back to you,
and also
it's
to my
gotta
fellow
work that
American
way.
Democrats
It's gotta work that way,
who
that
would
it's
have the
better for
courage to
people.
cross the line. Because another thing that happens here in Washington, nobody crosses the line anymore.
Well, you just
on these
created a
votes.
process with this vote where they can't really cross the line effectively because the amendment structure is all controlled by the Republicans. But let's see what they come out with, and then we'll test it. Let me move on to something else while I have you, Anthony.
Yeah, go
What's
ahead.
going on with Jeff Sessions? You are a man who is known for dealing face-to-face with people and talking straight to people. That's not what's going on here. You've got the president openly bullying one of his earliest supporters. It's
I don't see-
upsetting just to his own party. It wound up being a little bit of a distraction to the vote yesterday. You say you don't agree. How is this the right thing to do by Jeff Sessions?
No, I didn't say I don't agree. I was going to say that everybody's got personality differences and everybody has different style affects of their personality. One of the things that I like about the president that some people in Washington perhaps don't like about the president is the upfrontness. If he's unhappy with my job and he tweets out about me that he's unhappy with my job and 113 million people hear that, you know, I'm a pretty secure guy. I'm okay with that. And then I would go and talk to him and say, okay, can I improve this? Can I make it better for you?
So
And
you
if I
don't
can
think
make
that
it
up
better-
front is coming to Anthony and saying, Anthony, you're falling down on the
Chris,
job? You think tweeting
Chris,
about
what
you
did
is
I-
up front?
Well, I think that's pretty up front. He just happens to be sharing it with 113
But he's not
million
even
people.
talking to Jeff Sessions directly?
But
he
well,
goes to Twitter?
I actually think
One of his
Jeff
earliest
Sessions
supporters?
is probably one of the 113 million people. But I get the point, and I understand what you're saying. But I'm also saying something, okay? And you remember Ed Koch, who was a friend and sometimes not so much of a friend of your dad's. Ed Koch had a great line. He says, hey, I'm not getting the cancer. I'm giving you the cancer. And the point is that the president is a very expressive guy, and he is going to let the society know and the people of the United States know how he feels on a day-to-day basis. I'm telling my fellow teammates here in the West Wing and my fellow friends that happen to be cabinet secretaries that this is his style, this is his nature. You got to have a very tough skin to work for and deal with the president. But if he respects your toughness and he respects your honesty and your loyalty, somebody said as you guys were entering this 8-hour segment that the loyalty for the president is one-sided. That is absolute nonsense. Okay, he is a symmetrical loyalist for sure. If you take care of him, he's going to take care of you. I seen it yesterday. I can't tell you the number of people when I was sitting in the Oval Office with him that he was calling to thank for voting for the bill and staying on side as fellow Republicans and doing the right thing for the United States.
Anthony,
so when I hear the nonsense that the president's one-sided loyalty, it's a bunch of nonsense. I've experienced it myself personally. My family has experienced it. The American people in Ohio and the American people in West Virginia over the last 2 days, if you saw those crowds, Chris, you would know how much the president is loved and how much the American people in general want the nonsense to end in Washington.
But first of all, Anthony, the president's generating the nonsense on this. And I don't know how you think it's going to engender loyalty among your team if the message to them is, hey, do right by the president. And if you don't, he's going to out you on Twitter before he even talks to you face to face. I don't understand. You know that fellow senators and fellow lawmakers within your own party. No, but
you and I are going to argue.
But there's no argument, Anthony, because the reality tells a very specific story. People within your own party are saying, stop bullying Jeff Sessions.
Chris,
why are they saying it?
Chris, the results speak for themselves. You and I are going to want to argue about his managerial style and his communication
I don't think
style,
it's managerial. I just think it's a character issue.
But he's worth $10 billion, and he started for the presidency on June 16th of 2015, and he's 6 months into the presidency. So we can argue about it, but I think the results and the success speak for themselves.
You think that he's going to remove Jeff Sessions?
Watch over the next 6 to 12 months what we do here in terms of transforming the way people think about government, the way people communicate about government, and think about what we're going to do here in terms of improving the society for all Americans.
We'll take it step by step. Do you
policies.
think that he's going to get rid of Jeff Sessions because he seems to be injuring him in public?
I don't know the answer to that. But what I would suggest to both and again, I don't want to get in the middle of the president and one of his cabinet secretaries. But since the president has said this to 113 million people, I'll say it to your viewership. Although the president say your viewership's not so good, but I know it's good, Chris. Don't get defensive. But
it's
here's
all right.
What I would say
we don't rely on the president for a rendition of facts.
Here's what I would say to you about your viewership, and I would say the same thing to both of them if they were standing here together. Let's try to communicate
and
figure out
spoken?
directionally where we're going. But I would recommend to every cabinet secretary and every teammate that I have here in the West Wing have a tough skin.
Have they spoken?
And I don't know the answer.
You don't know the answer, or the answer is no, they haven't spoken yet. So they may have answered, you just don't know about it?
Here's the other thing. I'm not one of those obfuscators where I'll tell you that I don't know the answer and I actually know the answer. I actually don't know the answer.
And so you don't know what happens going forward on that. Let's move to a different issue. The leaks. You got rid of somebody inside the staff. Was it because you thought they were a leaker?
No, I had never met the person personally. I got rid of somebody inside the staff because somebody above my rank had suggested that that person needed to be fired. Now, here's the problem with this whole thing, and I want to apologize. I'm not going to mention his name on the air, but I want to apologize to the person that
I didn't say his name for a reason either.
And I understand that, and I did too, because we're both compassionate people. I didn't want to fire him as much as we wanted to give him the opportunity to resign, which he did. And I talked to him last night by phone, and I said to him, hey, I'm here to help you find another job. Because whatever happened, right or wrong, inside the administration, you've got a long life, I've got a long life, and let me help you build your career. I also believe in the process of redemption. So if somebody does something wrong on a job, and then go find another job and try to do that right. I wrote that in my books. You know, people are fallible people, myself included. I have a whole phone book of fallibility about myself. So I called him last night, and I said to him, the reason you were let go is somebody above my rank, I'm not going to say who, said that you needed to be let go, and you weren't being let go, and so I had to send a managerial message to the people that are working for me that I'm going to do what I say. And I also report to somebody, if he asks me to do something, I'm actually going to go do it. I'm not a politician, Chris, and I'm never going to be a politician. What I'm going to be is an entrepreneurial business executive that's going to try to inject some accountability into the system. And what I told the people that work for me in the communications department, I would like the leaks to stop. Now, all of the cynics around here and the tweets and all this other nonsense saying the leaks are never going to stop. And I say to those people, you're correct. I know the leaks will never stop. But if I can dial back the leaks in the department that I am representing and the department that I am running, then I will feel that I've accomplished something on behalf of our president.
All right, a couple questions on this.
I don't think I can stop the leaks interagency, or there's some senior people in here for inexplicable reasons that are leaking on each other. I would tell my colleagues to stop doing that. It doesn't help the president. It's embarrassing to the institution of the presidency, and it makes you look very, very small when you're leaking on your colleagues. That's not good team sports. And I also told the guys in the communications department that you will never hear me say, hey, go leak XYZ on so-and-so. I want to influence the president's decision about firing the guy.
You shouldn't.
I will never do that. I'll go right to the president and say, this guy's terrible. He's got to be fired.
A few questions. One, you said somebody above your rank wanted him out. Was that the president?
I didn't answer the question, Chris. You see, I'm getting so subtle and surgical in terms of the way I talk.
You're as subtle as a heart attack. If you report directly to the president.
Well, just remember what Koch said. I'm going to give you the heart attack, Chris. You're not going to give me the heart attack.
You want to bring up Ed Koch, may he rest in peace. Let's talk about him. You know what he did? He called you on the phone, and he said, Mario, I got a problem with you. Or whoever it was, I have a problem with you. Here it is. He dealt man to man, face to face, because he believed people deserve the dignity of that respect, and not to hear from someone else or somewhere else how he felt about you.
I mean,
so this is not an Ed Koch model. This is something else.
It's not an Ed Koch model, but this is a guy that's made $10 billion for himself and his family, and this is a guy that ascended to the American presidency. But since we're talking about Ed Koch, let's talk about it.
And doing it the right way could be very different things in business,
Chris, let's talk about Ed Koch. He once said, if you believe in 9 out of the 12 things that I'm saying, you should vote for me.
You're doing
and
great.
then he said, if you believe 12 out of the 12 things, you need a psychiatrist.
Right, look,
and that's what I would say to my fellow Republicans.
Ed Koch isn't
We've got a
president
plan
right
in
now.
place. Vote for us.
Ed Koch isn't president right now. Did the president tell you, get rid of this guy, he's one of the leakers?
I'm not going to answer that question because I just said I wasn't going to answer it.
I know, but what happened to being straight? What happened to just, I'm not going to obfuscate?
I'm straightly not answering your question.
And you know what that suggests, right?
You know, what does it suggest?
Well, if you don't want to answer the question, it suggests that, yes, it was him who told you not to do it. Because otherwise you'd say, no, it wasn't him. Because it clarifies
I already answered it. You're just not really a derivative thinker. I said somebody above my rank. Go read the press release.
You're hurting my feelings, Anthony. Was that your goal today?
But you know what's funny about you? Was when I tease you, you get very upset.
I'm never upset. I got a big smile on my face.
I have to stay here and not be upset.
Anthony,
listen,
it's never personal for me, except for the fact that I have a little bit of affection for you. But it's fading.
Yeah, and same here. But let me say this to you, okay? Whether it's CNN or any other news organization that is here at the White House, we are open for business. And I believe in the First Amendment, as does the president. And I'm here to tell you that I just would like fair treatment and objective coverage. And I always respect you for asking tough questions. But what we really want to do now, let's give the president the opportunity to get his agenda out.
The president has been invited on New Day on a regular basis. Sometimes I look right into the camera and I say to him, you are your best advocate. Come on the show and make the case to the people. He is always welcome to be tested.
And when the time is right, and the president wants to do that or doesn't want to do that, that'll be up to him. But what I want to do for all of these news outlets here is create the environment and create a exposure and relax some of the tension and anxiety. We're going to be open for business with the cameras this afternoon. And let's try to create at least a relationship between ourselves and the Fourth Estate where we hold each other accountable. But you give us the opportunity to explain ourselves to the American people of what we're trying to do to help the country.
You will get just that. Let me ask you a couple more questions. Jeff Sessions, is it true that he is putting together a plan to investigate leakers in the White House and beyond?
Well, I wouldn't say just the White House. He's putting a plan together for the interagencies, and I want to work very closely with him as the Director of Communications, and I want to work with the other agencies and departments to get our message coordinated amongst ourselves, and we want to uproot some of these leakers because, yes, I'm not naive. I know that we're never going to end all of the leaking. I didn't suggest that, but I want to put a culture in place where people trust each other. Here's why some of these
Isn't that instilling a culture of fear if you're chasing people who leak? I mean, if they're not leaking classified information, this is something that's always happened.
No. Hold on a second. I'm a very upfront guy. I sat in an office with a group of 40 people and said, listen, I will do anything I can to help your careers and further your opportunities in the future. But for right now, we serve one person and his agenda. That's the President of the United States. You are not serving the president's agenda if you're nefariously leaking on people. You're not being loyal to him.
But a leak isn't necessarily nefarious. This White House leaks more than most, and it's because of a collective insecurity.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that, okay? If you take the psychological equation of insecurity plus underconfidence, I've run 2 successful businesses. Insecurity plus underconfidence always equals paranoia and backstabbing. It always does. And so what we have to do is we have to go step by step, person to person, and figure out if we can fortify their confidence and fortify their security. If we can't do that, we got to ask them to leave, because nefarious leaking is disloyal to the president, it's disloyal to the institution of the presidency, and it's bad for America.
But
Chris.
doesn't that start at the top?
So
the president staying on message, not saying things that are outrageous, not going after his own.
Hold on a second, okay? Now you're talking about two different things. You want me to stay on the leaking, or you want to go to the president's communication style?
I think there's correlation and causation to the two, but explain it the way you'd like.
I don't agree with that at all. I totally disagree with that. The president has a very unique communication style. I would argue, people will say that I'm being sycophantic. I'm not. I'm just being objective. He is arguably the most media-savvy person in history, but certainly of our times. And so he has hopped right over the mainstream media and used his social media mechanisms like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram to hit directly to the American people. And it's the reason why we spent less money and had less staff during the campaign and won the election. And so you got to just look at it for what it is. And so there are vagaries on the bell curve of his media style that some of you guys in the media don't like. And maybe some of the elites here in Washington really don't like. But if you go down the base, if you look at the statistical base, you'll see that the base and the majority of the American people, and certainly all of the American people that voted for him, either don't care about the tweets, they find them funny, they find them refreshing, they don't overreact and microanalyze them the way you guys do.
It's actually not what the surveys show. It shows most people don't think that they're appropriate and aren't big fans of him, but he is playing to his base. I'll give you that.
But you know what? They're still voting for him. He's still the president.
Well, they voted for him. Let's see if the same style as a president works as an insurgent candidate.
Last time I checked, he's living in the residence up here, and the elites aren't.
Yeah, well,
that's the last time I checked. So he's doing something right.
I mean, I would say that, what definition of elite Donald Trump not fit? He's one of the wealthiest people in the country. He's always been on the outside. He's been working with the insiders in Washington since you and I were born.
About him? That is the best.
I just don't know how you call him an outsider or not an elitist.
I may bring you onto the communications team because you're articulating him better than me. Isn't that the best thing about him? That he's wickedly wealthy and that he's able to, play golf at all these unbelievable golf courses, and he's able to have a connection into the elites.
I hope not. I hope that how much money he has isn't the best thing about him.
No, you won't let me finish.
Go ahead.
I'm giving you the whole bandwidth, Chris. And then all of that, and he's still able to relate to regular people, and regular people are cheering and identifying with him. And he's able to identify systemic problems in the middle class and the lower class despite his wealth. And how about that for emotional quotient and intelligence and empathy? How about
He's got
that,
a great ear. He had a great gut during the campaign, and now he has the mandate to make those problems that he identified so well better. We'll see how he does.
We should end the interview right there.
Last question, and I only have one more, and I'll let you go.
He had a great ear, and he had a great gut.
Listen,
I mean, that could be the most positive thing that's been said about the president on CNN in 6 months.
Listen,
being Italian, I would actually hug you, but I'm in between you and this camera.
You can give me.
That's a very nice thing to say, Chris.
I feel the affection, Anthony. That's good enough.
Let's build a habit of saying nice things about the president, and I'll bring him on.
When due, he gets the praise. He gets what he gives. He gets what he deserves. That is the job of testing power. Last question: is the president going to sign the sanctions bill?
Okay, so there was and again, I don't want to explain this to you. Sarah said one thing, that he likes most of the elements of that bill, apparently. I said that I didn't know, and so there was a little bit of confusion. And then one of the New York Times reporters called me, and I said, look, go with what Sarah's saying. It's my second or third day here. And so I have to sit down with the president and ask him that. And then I have to ask the president, how would you like me to communicate that to the media? So what I'm going to say to you at this point, I personally don't know, but I don't want people reading into that, saying, oh, the communications director said that the president's not signing it. I think I got to understand it better, and I would rather tell you with great truth that I'm just not up to speed on the issue rather than make something up.
All right, I accept you at your word. Anthony Scaramucci, good luck going forward. You're always welcome on New Day to make the case.
I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you.